This is ZW31.4 EM. Today's show brought to you by Snap, Crackle, and Shock Defense Solutions. On this special day for our Turian compatriots, the Stand Together sale is in full swing at your nearest Snap, Crackle, and Shock Defense Solutions kiosk. Type in the keyword Crispy Critters with K's to receive an additional 15% off on melee, pistol class, and modification solution tools. Ask a customer service representative for a free consultation on what options are right for you. Happy Unification Day!
We here at the station appreciate your patience as an audience. GMZW today is brought to you live from Mr. Rock's new conference room as upgrades are being made to our studio.
Good morning, Zakera Ward. Good morning, Suraya. Good morning, Asar Amore. It is 0800 on the dot on this most special day. To my honorable Turian brothers and sisters, Happy Unification Day.
And for those of us without mandibles or intricate colony markings on our faces, Happy Wednesday. And, Jorik, what are you wearing?
This is my service retired uniform. Today is an important day for the Turian Hierarchy, Suraya. I'm not sure how much you know about our history, but today is the day that the Unification War ended. This marks the uniting of our people under one banner as we held our heads up high in the galactic community as a single force.
And for our listeners, here's a brief lesson on Turians and the Unification War. Take it away, Jorik.
Turians have always been willing to face danger in the name of progress. It's what makes us such a powerful military force. An unwillingness to back down when the... How does the human idiot go? When the going gets resistant?
When the going gets tough, Jorik. Don't worry, we'll make you an expert of human idioms yet. So, about that unwillingness to back down.
When the Turians discovered the mass relays, we pushed our space exploration efforts into overdrive. Soon we had colonies everywhere we could reach, often hundreds of light years away from our homeworld. After a while, local chieftains and warlords started deciding that they didn't want to be beholden to Palaven. They wanted their own little isolated governments.
Can't imagine that the hierarchy appreciated that.
Oh, they most certainly didn't, Suraya.
Palaven gathered a fleet from the loyal colonies and went to each rebellious colony to, well, bring them back in line. The Unification War was difficult and sometimes brutal, but it was the forge that shaped the Turians into a single cohesive unit.
How poetic, Jorik.
Thank you, Matriarch.
It's hard to think of an event equal to that in human history. The diversity of humanity is something that we as a species have struggled with for literally millennia.
What do you mean, Suraya? Don't all humans follow the Alliance?
Yeah, Jorik, we do, but that doesn't mean we don't still think of ourselves as English, or Russian, or Japanese on occasion.
But surely you're all united under your military. The Alliance is a coalition force pulled from all of humanity. That implies that humans are at least militarily cohesive, right?
Well, not entirely. I mean, there are still disagreements. Humans tend to argue fairly often, about almost anything, really.
I understand, Suraya. Human culture focuses on the individual, so it makes sense that each person wants to make sure their voice is heard.
What are you trying to say?
For example, while I was out walking through the Presidium yesterday, I came across a group of humans outside your embassy. Apparently, the body of a human soldier, Nirali Bhatia, is being withheld from her family due to Alliance orders. Her husband was leading a campaign to have her returned.
I trust that the Alliance senior staff is making the right decision in holding the body. There has to be a good reason, and, well, that reason is probably classified and military in nature. The protest does nothing but encourage unbridled emotions and unneeded political
But
pressure.
that's the point, Jorik. Having a voice in those kind of decisions is what makes the Alliance great. It's different groups of humans working together, not a rigid structure like the hierarchy where the higher ranks always call the shots.
That may be true, but in purely military matters, it's important to remember that...
Time flies. Guess we'll put a pin in that for later, Jorik. In honor of Unification Day, we have a guest from the Turian Hierarchy.
I must have missed the memo. Who's on their way in?
You truly don't know, Jorik? You suggested him.
Yeah, he confirmed about 6 yesterday. Did you get the message?
I didn't check my Omni tool this morning. It took me a bit longer than usual to get dressed. I haven't put on this uniform in almost a year.
You look good in them, Jorik. I was always a fan of the marine grey. It looks very distinguished.
It looks like fabric trying to be armor. And if that's the uniform, why are there no medals?
Why, thank you, Matriarch. And it's a retired uniform, Suraya. Retired Turian military don't wear medals. The piping and cut show the unit and branch I served with, and the emblems on the shoulder indicate the ship I was based on.
So those are the military colours on the cuff and shoulders?
Welcome to GMZW, High Sergeant.
The piping, Suraya. Do humans not know the uniform insignias of their own armed forces? And it's a pleasure to... Regis Tactus? High Sergeant Regis Tactus.
That's right, introducing High Sergeant Regis Tactus of the 53rd Marine Division.
You're today's guest?
It's good to see you too, Jorik.
Congratulations on your promotion. A High Sergeant now. When did that happen?
It happened because I stayed in the military. I have been commanding the landfall crews on the 53rd Marine Division for a little over 2 years now, on the Proxima. It was actually nice to get some shore leave. The new recruits are so shiny you wouldn't believe it. I found one yesterday that had his tack bags on upside down. The idiot thought it would help him get his grenades faster.
So, how do you two know each other?
Of course, I was in Jorik's unit when he was still in active duty. He and I were part of the 53rd boarding party. When I received your station's message, I asked for shore leave so that I could be the one to spend a day with a compatriot and an old friend.
That's fantastic. What is a boarding party?
Sergeant Regis and I used to be the ones shuttled out to enemy ships during combat to, deal with the crews in person. We were primarily assigned to anti-Batarian runs, though there was the occasional smuggler or mercenary group.
Remember that one Batarian interceptor that thought it was a good idea to hide behind the moon they just hit? Their magnetic signature was like a corona around that rock. I still don't know what their navigator was thinking. All that was on the moon was a palladium mine, a few dozen workers, and a small trade post. Huge score, right?
I'm sure the captain was asking the same question the moment your teams boarded, Sergeant.
He wasn't asking for long.
Why would you say that while laughing?
That particular captain went down with his ship. They sealed the bridge off, which let Rex's team secure the cargo and sweep the ship, but there weren't any crew captured that day. They chose to go down fighting. The ship itself was hauled back to Turian space for salvage and intel.
Doesn't do us any good to stop one raider if we can't hit them where they live. Plus, the scrap metal is useful for all sorts of things.
I imagine that fighting to the last would be quite common for Batarians. They aren't very keen on imprisonment.
Regis did have a bit of a reputation. He always had a plan for how to get in and complete the mission with a minimal amount of casualties on our side.
Though I remember after that particular Batarian raid, you had to be dragged back to the cruiser because of one of those headaches of yours.
Oh, so you know about Jorik's migraines. I thought he conveniently only had those on his days off.
Don't bring that up again, Suraya.
Most certainly not. Jorik had to be dragged out of comm hubs and nav stations during a few firefights. Medics were after his crest half the time we were on the ship because he tried to grimace his way through as much as he could, until the wing leader finally ordered him to seek aid. Then they started happening more frequently, and...
When it got to be too much to bear, I requested a transfer to logistics. Flying a desk, as the wing put it. And they never let me forget it.
Glad to see that the concept of hazing is alive and well in the military, no matter the species.
I have started to notice that having military friends and having human friends are not too different.
Now that is an interesting observation. Humans and Turians both celebrate their warriors. Success is usually understood through how many obstacles are overcome, and...
Speaking of human friends, Jorik, when you left, you told us you were going to work for CSEC. How did you phrase it again? If I can't serve Paladin on a ship, I can at least keep people safe. What happened? Were you not able to get past the entrance requirements?
I had to find other work.
Writing reports, stocking shelves, helping couples find the right...
Suraya, I don't think you're helping much.
Spirits, Jorik, you didn't just leave the hierarchy, you joined the civvy sector. You work on a radio show with a human giving out traffic advice to lovesick Hanar, and apparently you chose to work for a Volus too.
Hey now, that's
Hey,
not fair. You
what's
can't
so
go...
bad about civilian jobs? We can't all shoulder a rifle, you know. And what's so bad about working with humans?
Your kind are erratic and more likely to be reckless than do your duty. It's in your nature. The Relay 314 incident?
What about the Relay 314 incident? The way I remember it, some human vessels were just exploring near a relay and were fired upon without warning.
Those human exploration teams were activating relays that the Council had declared unsafe and quarantined. The careless opening of restricted relays endangered the entire galactic community. I had the pleasure of meeting an officer who was a part of the incident, and it was obvious then that humans simply weren't experienced and aware enough to be trusted. Recent events suggest that you still aren't.
That was uncalled for, Sergeant. If you're referring to the actions of the new human Spectre, perhaps you haven't been paying enough attention. You're aware that Shepard just recently arrived on Pharaoh's colony, and was not only able to help most of the colonists on Zoo's Hope, but also the workers of the nearby exogeny facility? And at great personal risk, I might add.
High Sergeant, the humans were new to the galaxy. They were exploring, they didn't have our history, and they were unaware that there were even other races to be afraid of. At the time they were activating relays, the closest thing they'd found to intelligence were probably Varen. But yes, it was irresponsible to blindly open relays, but it is unfair to say that they were being careless. Even their exploratory vessels gave some of our smaller craft issues with those kinetic weapons of theirs.
Thank you, Jorik. The Turians aren't blameless in the First Contact war either. Your ships didn't talk to ours before you opened fire, the way I heard it, mate.
The fleet station there was doing their duty as sentries. Nothing more, nothing less. It was their duty to ensure restricted relays remained closed so that children don't put the rest of us in danger.
Keep talking like that, and the only one who'll be in danger here is...
I think it's time for us to take a short break. In honor of the occasion, I submitted a special request for today's featured music. Without further ado, here is Die for the Cause, performed by the 38th Fighter Wing Battalion Choir.
I'm sorry, Jorik. The Turian Hierarchy didn't give us authorization to play their anthem. They don't list why, but I suspect that a human radio show is not their preferred theater.
Oh. That is disappointing.
You know that not even all Turian shows are allowed to broadcast that without authorization, right? It's a very important piece.
Instead, we were able to get Onward and Forward by the 132nd Landfall Brigade. I thought you might enjoy that one in lieu of your anthem being unavailable.
How did you get a hold of that piece, Asar?
I killed a man.
Let's see. Lillian Karam wrote this song in honor of her husband, a breach in the 132nd, who fell during a raid on a crime syndicate. Miss Karam wrote only the melodies, with the hope that the 132 and all other brigades would add their own words to honor their fallen. So, it's an instrumental track.
You're not wrong. Even our ship has its own verses to this song. She honored both her mate and his fellows by offering the musical groundwork, so that others may grieve and honor the spirits of their own fellow fallen soldiers.
I still remember them, and I can't wait to voice them again. This is Onward and Forward, listeners. If you are a member of the Turian military, active or retired, please feel free to share your verses with those near you. Regis, shall we?
Of course.
me back. We used to listen to that in the mess hall after a mission, adding verses every year for those we lost, while remembering the ones gone before.
Indeed, those were good times. You should have stayed in the military, Jorik.
Well, Jorik and I now provide an essential service for the Citadel.
I know, and I can see what it's doing to him. Jorik didn't used to do things halfway, you know. I still remember when he and I were going through basic. Each recruit had to go through Talons-On and simulation training modules. Most new recruits take a few extra courses to attempt to get selected for what they want. We can't all be Blackwatch, you know. Jorik took 20 extra courses.
18.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Hell, you should see him make coffee in the morning.
Let me guess. Coffee cup, front and center. Lid in the top left, stir straw across the top, sugar, vitamin supplement, milk, and other to the side.
One time, I stole his coffee lid when he went to get more dextro creamer. When he came back, he freaked out.
You caught me at a bad time that day, Suraya. I was having issues.
You have an exact counting of the number of lids the station has next to the coffee machine, Jorik. I see you counting every day.
Issues, Jorik? Not a headache, I hope. Probably brought on by your work environment.
Well, yes, actually. I could feel a bad one coming on, so I was trying to plan accordingly. Having that level of control helps me push back those headaches. They are stress-induced.
Are you certain they are stress-induced?
We worked together for quite a long time, High Sergeant. You should know, by now, what causes them.
Then it makes sense that you went into the public sector instead of staying with the fleet and doing something for your people, or joining something like CSEC and being of value.
Whoa, hey, alright. Let's just back that up a
My
bit.
headaches are no longer Palavin's concern, and I'm much more comfortable here. Friends don't get hurt when I black out here.
So you write your little reports and comment on breakdancing mech units on the overpass, or how some human is traipsing across the galaxy causing problems, when instead, you could directly join the fight, ensuring that soldiers are protected, or that ammo reaches the units on the front line.
I left all that behind me and found a way to increase my worth to galactic society through a different path than the military. I'm happy here.
Oh, how selfless of you.
I wouldn't say
Jorik,
that.
may I? Sergeant, this has all the hallmarks of being a conversation you two have had 100 times over. Jorik left for his reasons. You stayed for yours. We can't all be fighter pilots and demolition experts. Some of us can take accurate shots at long distance. Some of us are able to make culinary masterpieces. But, in their own way, everyone can contribute, Sergeant.
Of course, not all soldiers can be commandos. Some have to be data analysts. Why, last month, I received another report from a long-range detection facility about more and more geth ships skimming through the Turian and Council space.
What? How were they able to get through the outer perimeter? Turian space is well covered by scanners and sentries. There shouldn't be any sort of intrusions, even if they have disabled their IFF.
Hello? IFF? No military training here. Care to explain?
Identify friend or foe. It's a ship's identification signal that lets other vessels know who's crewing that ship.
It isn't that the craft doesn't have IFF signals. It's that we haven't had much experience with geth signals. Our sentries are picking them up and writing them off as debris or unmarked smugglers, low-priority items.
But they're geth. With what's been going on, any geth ships should be seen as military movements and
Why are the
acted on
Turians
accordingly.
letting these geth ships go? And if you can pick them up and track them, why aren't they taking them out? Why the slow reaction time?
The geth have been hiding behind the Perseus Veil for about 300 years now. It takes some time to understand a new signal. Patrols are already being dispatched, the incursions are being dealt with, and the Turian fleet will do what it can to ensure no more colonies will be attacked.
Alright, that certainly makes sense. It does take time to recalibrate and train. These geth craft must be the reason behind the increase in missing ships and disappearing colonies.
But why now, Sergeant? The geth haven't left the Perseus Veil for centuries. Now they're suddenly attacking human colonies at the behest of an ex-Spectre. Why would the geth follow an organic and start a war with the Council?
Sorry, I can't comment on this matter, nor do I really need to. What's important are the facts. Saren is a general at the head of a geth army, and with the apparent goal of attacking colonies and setting up staging areas. My job isn't to wonder why, but to board and clear ships for the Proxima.
Really? My job isn't to wonder why. Really? Just the good little bird following orders without thinking, is that it? Questions are important, Sergeant. Thinking is important. Loyalty is good, I respect that, I do. But the more you know, the clearer the picture you'll have.
I don't need to know why we're fighting. At least, I don't need to know right at this moment. I trust that my commanding officer is making the right decisions, sending me where I need to be with the knowledge I need to complete my mission. Why am I explaining myself to you anyway? That's the trouble with you humans. You can't just...
High Sergeant!
No, Jorik. This is the problem with the humans. They're weak. They can't just do their jobs. They dream too much, and they have little idea of the notion of pragmatism. Their government is filled with whiny, selfish children, and their military is filled with ridiculous rules like having to accept a surrender and no biological weapons. When presented with an opportunity to make an actual victory, which would be a long-lasting benefit, they flinch. This job is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, Jorik.
Hi, Sergeant. Do you really think that now is the appropriate time to voice these thoughts? On public radio? To the whole Citadel?
Weak. Weak, is it, to want to fully understand a situation before firing our guns? We tried the whole shoot first, then ask questions thing in the past, and it doesn't work. And yeah, maybe our governments aren't so great, but at least we tried to talk things out instead of blindly following orders like mass-produced robots. And what's so bad about dreaming? We made it to the stars in a few short centuries because of our ability to dream.
So it only took you 2 millennia to achieve interstellar travel. You don't know your place. You're young, reckless, impulsive, and you let emotions...
Sergeant, I believe your time is up.
That's all you Asari do, isn't it? Just talk.
High Sergeant Regis Tactus, that is enough. You are a guest here, and I think it's time that you left.
Very well. I am disappointed in you, Jorik.
Didn't you hear them? It's time for you to go. Get out!
As you wish. Happy Unification Day, Jorik. Suraya. Asar Amore.
High Sergeant Regis Tactus of the 53rd Marine Division, everyone. Happy Unification Day. Have a splendid day here at the wards.
Good morning, Zakera Ward.
Before anyone says anything, I just want to say that when I knew him in the military, he wasn't quite that bad.
I understand, Jorik. And Jorik cannot be held responsible for his friend's actions. Right, Suraya?
Yes. Yeah, you're right. But, Jorik, I swear to God, you owe me so much.
Oh, most definitely. Never again bringing a military friend. Forget every suggestion to that effect. Understood.
Dinner's on you tonight.
Yep, you got it. You pick the place and I will make reservations.
Mind if I join you? I'm quite famished as well.
You're paying for Asar too.
Absolutely, yes, of course.
Right then. How's Indian food sound?